Hello again, everybody. Good morning, good evening, good night, whichever applies. Tonight, we're going to talk about a man named John Frank Hickey. Hello, I'm Brent, and this is Strange Embers. So John Frank Hickey was born October 29th, 1865, and he was dubbed as the Postcard Killer. John Frank Hickey was born in Lowell, Massachusetts, to Irish immigrants Michael J. Hickey and Mary Ann Magrath. He was baptized Roman Catholic at St. Patrick's Church, which was only about 2 blocks from where his parents lived. After his arrest in 1912, Hickey also claimed to have been physically abused by his father. So many of these people that are killers and all, that it goes back and just like
physically
abused by one of them. So there's not a whole lot said about his upbringing, and it just kind of, from what I found, it just kind of jumps into his early teens. Hickey joined Loyal's First Congregational Church on Kirk Street. He also became an official of the Loyal YMCA and the Christian Endeavor. He was also part of the Freemasons as well. He listed his occupation as secretary of the YMCA. Hickey applied for and received membership with Loyal's William North Masonic Lodge in 1887.
I didn't realize the roots to the YMCA went that far back.
I didn't know they were that old either. In 1889, he became a Master Mason. Despite his later claims, Hickey never attended the rank of 32nd degree Freemason.
Is that the highest Mason rank?
The Freemasons, that's a whole twisted weaving web of things anyways, but the 32nd degree, I don't know if it's the highest one, but it's a very significant one.
Okay.
Vince McLawn described Hickey as having quit the Masons in June of 1895 in a biography he did about him. The Masonic records tell a different story. In March of 1895, Hickey was arrested in Loyal for stealing 20 gallons of alcohol from his employer. In response, the Grand Lodge ruled Hickey a liar and profane and expelled him from, quote, all the rights and privileges of Freemasonry, end quote, on June 12, 1895.
Okay. They had to abide by a certain standard in some aspects, I suppose.
Yeah, they do. They have certain standards and the degree of what kind of trouble you get into gets you kicked out. I don't know. Maybe it's up to the lodge you're associated with or something. Who knows?
Yeah.
So on September the 1st, 1883, 18-year-old John contacted police and said that he had found the 34-year-old pharmacist Edwin W. Morey dead on the floor of McGibbon's drugstore, where the both of them worked. Hickey claimed that Morey had been despondent for some time due to alcoholism, and that he had been trying to help his co-worker regain sobriety. As the doctor believed that Morey had taken poison, a stomach pump was brought, and at midnight, Morey showed some signs of life. But he died shortly thereafter, around 3 o'clock in the morning.
Then what he died from? Was it excessive alcohol consumption?
Years later, Hickey admitted to having murdered Morey with Landium. He had been afraid that if their employer had found out Morey was intoxicated, that he might fire the both of them.
Yeah.
So I guess that's one reason for murder, right?
Yeah, afraid for your job. Let's kill off your coworker. Which, your coworker's side hobbies shouldn't affect your employment status, but who knows?
You wouldn't think so. And Landium is...
Is it like thallium?
Landium is a tincture of opium.
Type of opium.
Containing approximately 10% powdered opium by weight. Landium is prepared by dissolving extracts from the opium poppy into alcohol ethanol.
So it could be strengthened or weakened according to the dilution of it.
Could be, yes.
So if he prepared it,
he had to make it a stronger
yeah.
dilute of it. So in 1896, John left Loyal and would never live there again. Between then and 1902, he drifted around Canada and the northeastern United States, working in various industrial jobs. On December the 10th, 1902, Hickey encountered Michael R. Kruk. He was an 11-year-old newspaper vendor. When Michael offered to sell him a newspaper, Hickey responded that he would purchase all of them if the boy would follow him into Central Park. When Michael did so, Hickey strangled him and left his body with the newspaper bundle under his head. The coroner later examined the body and found no evidence of sexual assault. The coroner's inquest ruled that Michael met his death by being strangled, quote, by someone or persons known to this injury, end quote. On December the 12th, 1902, Michael Kruk's body was released from the morgue and buried at Brooklyn's Washington Jewish Cemetery.
His first child murder.
That was the first child murder that he did. And that was in 1902. So what was the first one in 1883?
That was a good little time to cool off.
It was. His cool down period was very long, but with a lot of killers, as they continue to progress, their cool down period seems to get shorter and shorter and shorter. It becomes their drug. They have to have it more often, I guess you would say.
Yeah, that would make sense.
On October the 12th, 1911, Hickey, then employed as a steel plant supervisor in Lackawanna, New York, noticed 7-year-old Joey Joseph playing at his father's men's furnishing store. What is a men's furnishing store?
That would be odd. Does men have different furniture than women? Are there different furniture types for men and women?
I've never heard. I don't. What is a men's furnishing store?
I don't know what a men's furnishing store.
What is the difference between that and just a regular furnishing store? I mean, I would understand if it was like a men's clothing store, but a men's furnishing store?
What does the Google say?
Let's go ask the Googles.
Did men have separate bureaus?
A men's furnishing store is a shop that sells men's clothing, textiles, and other related merchandise.
Okay.
So it's just called men's furnishing store. Okay.
All right.
Did not know that. The more we know. Later, when Joey was making mud puddles with a friend in the street near his house, John mentioned to them to join him. He gave Joey a few pennies to buy candy for himself and his friend, and upon Joey's return, John abruptly told his friend that it was time for him to go home.
He said, "Get from here. You get."
Talking about old Hickey. John then took Joey by the hand and led him to an outhouse behind a saloon on Ridge Road. There, Hickey strangled Joey into unconsciousness, sexually molested him, and then strangled him to death. Hickey then dumped the boy's body into the outhouse pit.
Now, how old was Joey? Did you say 8 years old, 7 years old?
7 years old.
7. So he went from 12 to 7 in age range.
I don't know. I mean, I couldn't find anything on here. Was it just one of those by chance that's who you find, or if he had
something
caught
his eye?
Yeah, something that brought him to his attention
while he was playing in the furnishing store's window. And that's the first episode of sexual assault as well.
Yes, that we know of. So despite the assistance of the Buffalo Police Department, the investigation into Joey Joseph's disappearance had almost no leads. Then, on October 30th, 1911, a postcard was delivered to Lackawanna Police Chief Gilson, and it read, quote, Joseph will be found in the bottom of a water closet with 3 seats, back of the saloon near Doyle's on Ridge Road. A drunk, crazed brain done the deed, and remorse and sorrow for the parents is bringing results that will soon come to an end. The demon whiskey will then have one more victim, making it 4 in all. Drag the closet with the 3 seats. End quote.
So he was telling the police office that they dumped Joey in the outhouse, and he was victim number 3, and there should be one more victim to come. And it was all due to the whiskey.
Correct. But now, was he saying...
Which he murdered his first victim because of him being alcoholic and fearing for his job. Now he's the alcoholic doing the drinking and not really abiding by his own rules. So was that really the motive for the first killing? Or was he the one that was going to cause them to lose their jobs?
He could have been. But was the fourth, was he saying that, was that his suicide note to speak also? Was he planning on taking himself out?
Yeah, I mean, it could be. Or is there another to come? A cryptic message for the time, because they probably had no idea they were related. The first 2 killings related to the third of Joey, because the motives and the mechanism of action were all different. He did strangle the second one. I'm not sure how did it say he killed the first guy?
Strangulation.
No, was it strangulation? But he gave him the poison.
Oh, you said the first guy?
Yeah, he gave him the poison. And then the first child was strangulation, but
Correct.
No sexual assault. And the second child, which was the third victim, was strangulation, but with sexual assault.
Yes.
So they were all non-related in a signature type of scenario.
Kind of, yes. With no real leads, police decided to publish copies of the postcards in a local newspaper. Almost immediately, several people contacted authorities to say they recognized the handwriting as that of an eccentric drunkard and prolific correspondent named J. Frank Hickey.
So he was a drunkard, and they recognized him, so they quickly pointed a finger towards him. Sounds like.
After his arrest, Hickey confessed to 3 murders and numerous sexual assaults of children, along with Joey Joseph, a 10-year-old newspaper boy, Michael Crunk, and 34-year-old Edwin W. Morey. Hickey was suspected of at least 12 other murders during the 2 decades that he roamed around New England. Dozens of children went missing or were found murdered. At least 2 other serial murders, Albert Fish and Peter Kudzwinski, were also active in the general areas at the same time.
So they don't know who to blame for which murders.
Right. So J. Frank Hickey was a hopeless alcoholic. He was something of a dandy while he was sober, but when drunk, he confided to detectives that he harbored a secret sexual attraction for children. Most of his numerous assaults were spontaneous. When he was tipping the demon rum, he claimed that he couldn't control himself. Hickey was charged with first-degree murder, but in a verdict which surprised many. So somehow Hickey escaped the electric chair. He was instead convicted of second-degree murder and sent to Auburn Prison, where jurors were interviewed as to their curious verdict. One of the jurors said, quote, "Would you shoot a dog because he acts this way?" End quote. The jury thought he was insane, but Hickey was too dangerous to be placed into a mental institution where he might escape or be released, so the second-degree murder conviction effectively kept him locked up until he died.
Interesting.
There it is. October 29th, 1865 to May the 8th, 1922.
Yeah, that's his lifespan.
Yes.
That was probably a long life for that time frame. 57 years.
Oh, died in 1922. Possibly. I'm not going to say a long life, but not a short one.
Yeah.
And he only spent, let's see, that was, he was arrested in 1912 and he died in 1922. So he only spent 10 years in prison.
10 years in prison.
Yep. So that is the quick story of John Frank Hickey. You have anything you want to add?
No, that's interesting how in those times the crimes come about, and I guess it's almost the leniency of the jury on their convictions, which is a lot different than today's society.
Well, I mean, sometimes it is. You got the last public execution. We talked about this once, but the last public execution was in 1939.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a guillotine.
Yeah. But it was just kind of baffling to me that the jury decided, not to put him to death because he was mentally incapacitated.
It all depends on the jury you get.
Yeah.
Because everybody, I mean, there's a lot of people who have different feelings, especially about the death penalty. That's a huge one and if you start talking about across the pond, then like people over there in Europe, they absolutely, it's funny because over there, especially over there, public executions were a huge thing for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
But a lot of people over there are very, very against the death penalty.
Yeah. I don't know. Just seeing what they did, or, what he did with the children. He did murder, we know for sure, 2 children.
Correct.
And then had admitted to multiple cases of sexual assaults on children, that they gave him that leniency.
And then it comes back to also everybody says that he was a dandy when he's sober.
Yeah, but that happens with a lot of the serial killers. They're charming, charismatic.
Yeah.
Everyone, just adores them. He would never have done that.
Yeah. But there's a lot of them also, like when you say that, there's a lot of those killers that, from what we know, there's a lot of them that did all their deeds, sober.
Yeah.
That was their drug. That's the way they got high.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's these other stories like this one right here where, as far as we know, from what we know about it, it's when he got into a bottle, he became a different person.
Yeah. Whenever he was drinking, then.
Yeah.
His other side.
Right.
Came visible.
Because same thing, it said that when he was drunk or something, that's when he admitted that he was attracted to children and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, hope y'all enjoyed the episode. This was not a very long episode tonight, but I thought this was one worth, not a whole lot of detail to it, but I still thought it was interesting, worth telling. If you do want to know more about it, there is a book, The Postcard Killer, The True Story of America's First Profiled Serial Killer and How the Police Brought Him Down, by Vance McLaughlin. I hope y'all enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, all the good stuff that the algorithm likes. All that being said, tell them good night.
Good night. Stay safe.